My city, something is happening in it, terrible, terrible and inexplicable. People have changed, they are no longer what they were, everything has changed. I don't know how many days I have left to live, but while the light is still on, I have the strength to tell you a terrible story. I'm a normal guy, I'm 25 years old. Before these events, I worked in a bank, making loans. On weekends, we went bowling and to discos. Life went on as usual. I live in an ordinary Stalinka, my parents bought me an apartment. Of course, repairs are required here, especially the sewer system was in an extremely poor condition. Often there was rusty water coming from the bathroom tap. Then we didn't pay attention to this detail. When I moved in, I often heard the noise in the pipes at night, sometimes it was so strong that it woke me up. That night I came home from work tired and just wanted to have dinner. I was terribly hungry and had no time to prepare dinner. So I decided to brew noodles and make sandwiches. After dinner, I decided to wash the dishes, but I was waiting for an unpleasant surprise, rusty water poured from the tap. I'm not going to wash the dishes and go for a swim today. Having decided to go to rest, I went to bed. In the morning, I woke up earlier than usual, ran to the bathroom and the faucet poured dirty black water, and the smell was just terrible. It was like the mud of a swamp and the smell of rotting corpses. I thought it was strange. I decided to go to the neighbors and find out if I was the only one with water problems. I knocked on the neighbor's door. Just a couple of minutes later, Irina Pavlovna came out and told me that they also have a problem with water. Then I decided to go to the store and buy a couple of bottles after work. At work, I was waiting for an unpleasant surprise. It turned out that water problems all over the city, and not just me. The general unease was only beginning to grow. We were allowed to go home earlier that day. But when I went to the store, I saw a general panic. Everyone was buying water and I was a little wary. I also took 15 liters and went home. When I turned on the tap, I could smell it again. I almost threw up. Strange, but no one knew the reasons for what was happening, everyone just bought water. After a couple of days, the store shelves were empty and water began to be delivered in tanks. Sometimes people fought near them, and black water with a fetid smell came from the tap all over the city. This was the beginning of the terrible story. After 2 weeks, the tanks stopped coming, people were desperate to start, all the rivers and reservoirs were black and the smell was maddening. Some started drinking black water. At first everything was fine, it didn't even taste different, but then, gradually, people began to change. Their faces were covered with black spots, which then burst and wounds formed on the face. One day I decided to go to the store and met my neighbor Irina Pavlovna. Her face and body were all covered in wounds, and a stinking smell was coming from her mouth. She was carrying an eggplant with black water in her hands, and she offered it to me. "Take a drink, very tasty." She handed me the bottle. When I refused, she bared her teeth at me and threw herself at me angrily. I ran to the entrance and barely managed to close the doors. Then I heard a knock on my door. It was clearly trying to break down and get me. Why? To be continued.